Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back for another edition of the Gambit podcast. I am here with my good friend Zareth, and more importantly, we are here with a special guest, Ando. Ando, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How about you guys? Looks like I might be frozen, but
Oh, yeah,
frozen
you
carbonite.
you
But
are.
no, it's awesome to be here. Thanks so much for having me out, guys.
Of
We're pumped to
course.
have you, man. You're renowned on Twitch. You're a big deal.
No, I wouldn't say that much, but yeah.
All right.
No, it's that's one of the things that we've both been loving about doing Twitch more is meeting the Twitch community for Galaxy of Heroes, and yeah, you have quite a few more followers than us. Not that we're comparing, necessarily, but it's cool to meet these new personalities, and it also coincides nicely with the fact that you're really good at Grand Arena.
Oh
Yes.
no, but I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's funny too because I know we talked about this before, but yeah, it's like I'd say probably around like the March, April timeframe, like Twitch started like really growing. Like, so I started streaming pretty much in February. I started like really in December, but I had to leave for work for the entire month of January, which is why I totally didn't remember that there was a 5v5 only with no ships for Grand Arena. So I was like, what? When was the last one we had? Like September or something? But yeah, so I started streaming back then, and I remember like telling my friends, like I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm gonna get a PC. I'm gonna start streaming," but they don't play Galaxy of Heroes, and they're like, uh, "Oh, cool. Like, where are you gonna go? Twitch, Mixer, whatever." And I was like, "No, YouTube, man." And they're like, "What? No one streams to YouTube, dude. Get out of here." And I was like, I promise you, like everyone used to, be over there, but now like it's really cool to see like how Twitch has grown. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the lack of a delay on Twitch is so much better than YouTube, where you basically can't talk to the chat. It's like the chat is talking, and then 30 seconds later you respond to them.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. But yeah, we're on Twitch now more and more, so that's good, I guess. So you also have a YouTube channel though, right?
I do. Yep. Yep. It's still kind of in its infancy. But yeah, I'm slowly adding stuff there, and it's fun. Like I like that because the whole idea is like streaming is great, but like you can only do it, a certain time of the day. It's great when you can throw out a video, and whether it's a guide or whether it's, something else, and just even your Grand Arena, because then people have different schedules, like people can't make, all the streams in the world. So it's like it's nice to get, some, feedback from there as well. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of YouTube videos, you have a stunning partnership that just came out this week with YouTube videos. Why don't you tell people about that? See, unlike last week where we completely forgot to have more pimp his stuff, we're gonna get it out of the way up front. That way, we remember.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so uh I'm thinking what if you're thinking about is probably the one with Gridden. And
Yep.
so basically, like I just, there's been a lot of, positivity or negativity like throughout the game, and it ebbs and flows with time. And but one of the things that like I felt like was missing, and this actually came because you guys, I don't know if you guys check up on the competitors like Discord that much, but like I thought back to like it's Christmas of like what was it? Was it maybe 2018 or something like that? When like Mobile and Arnold were together, and they were like actually like living together, and they were creating like just like weird videos, but they were like kind of funny. Like they're really funny. I mean, and like they partly they weren't even really about the game, but I was like, you know what, dude, we need something that we can just laugh at. So I was like, hey, Grid, you and I have similar, sense of humor. Let's just like have people pose questions out to us and answer them, and like let's just encourage them to just be super like silly and crazy and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pretty funny, dude. I was editing it. I was like, gosh, dude, this I was laughing at it myself. Like it was so dumb.
And just to your biggest debate of those videos, it's Quirrell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got a lot of hate from that. Like I totally anticipated. Like,
Oh yeah.
anytime, I mean, it'd be the same thing too. Like if someone like was just like, yeah, like Luke Sky watch learn, I'd be like, who are you trying to insult me? Like, are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get it. I knew we were gonna get huge hate for that. Like, especially my line where I was like, he probably has a name. I definitely don't remember it.
All right. Now that we actually remembered to do that. Sort of a not busy week in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes this week.
It's the week between.
It is. It's the old between week. But we did have one post from CG, and it's supposedly a response to all the feedback that was thrown their way with pitchforks and torches and stuff, except for the post literally says the exact same thing that the State of the Galaxy said, just worded as if it was feedback, and people basically ate it up, which makes me laugh because they didn't say anything new, but people are, man, they're so responsive, they listen to us. Which, that was always fun. But, yeah, so, Zareth, what'd you think of the post that really wasn't a post?
Dude, I did just think it was really funny. Like, so, they're asking for feedback for galactic challenges. So everyone offers their opinion on galactic challenges, and that's great. That's what they wanted, and then they're like, hey, here's some stuff. Here's some talking points on galactic challenges. Like here's the stuff that we've gathered, and I just I just laughed because they had totally already said that this is just the test phase. Like we're just trying to roll it out slowly. Like they just reiterated everything, and this time the community's like, hey, cool, this, I'm so glad you're actually listening to us, when they had already stated their intention to listen to us, and they're just following through. Like, if anything, they should be congratulated for following through on their previous stuff. So sometimes I wonder how much of the community that we read, like that we see on Reddit, on all these different platforms, I wonder how much of their news they take from the forums as opposed to just watching it in, on some of the bigger platforms, some of the bigger YouTubers and stuff. Because, if they had only watched some of the bigger YouTubers, I guess I can understand why they wouldn't expect good things about it.
Yeah.
And if they had read things on the forums, then I can not understand it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad that they posted something just because everybody was responding, clearly not having read the initial State of the Galaxy or just ignoring exactly what it said. I mean, we basically said in the podcast 2 weeks ago, hey guys, this is just the exhibition season. It's going to change. And yet, I watched some other streamers or podcasts and literally got yelled at by guests of one of the podcasts about how it's absurd that this is 7 days. And it's like, but dude, read. Read. We have a sticker on our Discord server for dear old J-Rod, who doesn't always read everything. And so we created a sticker, or I should say Bodhi, who controls the bot, created a sticker that says, for the love, just read it. And I feel like every podcast and every Reddit post, I just wanted to share that sticker because Good Lord, people just needed to read it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Ando? We're here, kind of just rehashing our same old discussion, but
Oh.
like what are your thoughts on the galactic challenges, and like what CG has done with them, and
Well,
the community response, etc.
yeah, I think I can, like, I whenever the post went live, I thought to myself, like it wasn't really about the actual like content of the post, because yeah, you're right, like it was just basically them rehashing everything they already said. Is more, I think it spoke more of like, hey, like this has been a thing for, like, I'd say a larger issue for probably 2 or even maybe longer than that, 2-ish years. Maybe just before that we didn't really notice because they were actually like pumping out continuous stuff. But like, it'd be nice if they even just came out straightforward and just said, hey, like, we, there's been so many issues, right, that happens, and they're like, it's almost like they just ignore it, or they're just like they just, like, if they just don't speak on it, like maybe people don't find out about it or whatever. And so it's like, I like the fact that they like addressed it. They're like, hey, listen, we understand that the rewards aren't what they were. Here's what we're looking at fixing. Like, we get it. It was like the first time I really felt like they, at least in a long time, have done it. Like, hey, listen, we get it, this sucks, and we're gonna get better. But yeah, that was like, as far as the communication piece. Like, as far as like galactic challenges, I don't know if it was maybe just us or like their communication, but it's definitely not what I expected. Because there was like a few keywords maybe that I like keyed in on, and like scalable and replayable were like the two biggest ones that I thought of. And when I see scalable, and I've talked about this in my stream, like, here's how I feel like scalable is. And this is what, like, and they talked about like using your entire roster, right? Like I thought, if I were to give them any advice on galactic challenges, I would like to see it to where it's like, hey, tier 3 or tier 4 or one of those mid tiers, no matter what, like, if you throw in, like, I'm a 6.5 million GP player, I could throw in my Tuscans and it'd be like 56K, right? No matter what, though, at tier 3 or tier 4, the enemy squad that they match me up with should match that GP. And then like tier 1 would be, let's just call it like 20% less than 56K, and tier 2 would be 10% less, and then like tier 7 would be like the 20 or 30% more GP, right? Like, and even if like I brought in my SLKR, then it's still like hard for my SLKR to win that or whatever. Or maybe it's just the environmentals that plus my buffs that I'm getting that make it easier or whatever. That's what I thought. Like, and because that made sense to me, because it's like, okay, if you're a new player at level 60, that means you're basically doing tier 1 and tier 2. Like, you're not doing even close to any of the other tiers. It'd be nice if they could get it to at least tier 4, and maybe like, again, if they might have synergy, like, or some sort of buff over that enemy, then they could, potentially get to tier 5 or something. But yeah, that to me is like, I would love to just throw in my Phoenix again as a 6.5 million GP player and just see how far they can go. And with this system, I can only do like tier 1, tier 2. But yeah.
Yeah, I actually, I mean, I really like that idea. I have no clue how easy or hard it is programming wise, but I love the idea of the tiers are based on the team that you use. That just sounds fun.
It's sort of like, I don't know how often you guys have ever, or if you have ever even played it, but it's basically like Blitz, like in MSF. Like, we've all heard about that, and it's sort of like that. Like, you can climb up this basically ladder system, and as soon as you get to a point where they're like, hey, my whatever GP team can't beat this anymore, you can either bump it down and hopefully try to take advantage of some sort of synergy that you have over them, or you just say, hey, like, that's as far as I can go, type thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would like to see. Because again, like there's fun teams out there that I want to play, and I don't want to use them in Grand Arena. I can't use them in SWAT Arena. And, and I'm not going to use them in Galactic War. I would like to challenge them. I'd like to find a team that I'd like to find a team that my Phoenix can actually have a decent fight against, but it's not going to happen in tier 5 of a GC. So.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, what do you guys think about like how much time it takes? It's big time investment right now. Like I know that a lot of people are saying in the comments right now, a lot of people are saying that the two issues, and we can address gear in a minute, but the other one is just length of time. Like, do you guys like the 7 days? Do you guys like what are your guys' thoughts on that?
No, I think I probably will like the 3-day one the best, because there are some days that are just too busy. If you have Territory War, Grand Arena, and a Sith Raid going on, I don't want to spend another half an hour doing another event. Because I'm a competitive person, I'm going to be competing in Territory War, Grand Arena, and the Sith Raid. So I don't think 1 day. I think 1 day is too short. So I probably would like 3 days, because that'll give you 2 a week, and that's fine for me. If somebody says 2 days, I probably won't hate it, but I didn't want another game mode to begin with, because I already feel like I spend too much time in the game. So 3 days is probably ideal for me. What about you, Ando?
Yeah, I think for me, 2 days, I think would probably be the most ideal, but that's only if they can make it to the point where it's like I said, like if I can use different squads and I can actually like have fun. There's teams out there that, like I said, I want to play, but I have no way to play them. They're just Imperial Troopers is a great example, right? Like I'm not in any position to relic them, but I loved them like back in the day. Like I really, really enjoyed playing, my Gear 8 Imperial Troopers against like Gear 12 Night Sisters and beating them. I loved that, like doing that. But yeah, I mean, nowadays, like no one's setting a defense to where I have a few of my Gear 12 now, but like even that, like Night Sisters relics scaled them pretty high. And so there's no way that I'm getting kills off of them. And yeah, there's just no place for me to use them, but I would love for me to use them somewhere. I just can't. But I think 2 day would probably be like where I would stand. And that's just because, again, I do stream quite often, but I could totally see like, yeah, the 3 as well. I think 7 is too far, like too long, especially if there's not literally that like replayability as they so called it, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, I like it being a little bit longer. I think maybe 7 days is too long, but I like the idea of just being able to put it off for a few days and still get to it. Because I'll be honest, with my alt and my main, trying to do all the assault battles and stuff, there are times that my alt I just like get so mad at myself because I've forgotten to do all the assault battles on my alt, and
Yeah.
it's like I missed out on Zetas and all that stuff. Like, that would have substantially helped my account, and I could have finished all the content or most of the content, and I just didn't because I didn't have time, because it was a busy day. And like the galactic challenges, they don't have good enough rewards for me to actually care that much about missing them right now. But like if they ever get to that point, I would be really frustrated. What do you guys think would be the right rewards? People here, more people, like I see Meow Baka says, like obviously the tier 1 or the Mark 1 stun guns is insulting, in my paraphrase of what he said. But like what do you guys think would be the right gear for it? Like what how would you feel rewarded, without it totally breaking the game? Like, of course we would all just love, like, if we finish the final tier, we get 500 stun guns. That would feel really good for just a tiny bit until we discovered that it just broke the game, really.
Yeah.
The balance of the gear and everything.
So I guess I'll take this first.
Yeah, you go first.
I should have stipulated who should go first.
You should have.
You guys both. Yeah, so ANDO, I choose you.
Heck yeah. As much as I didn't want this, like, so I guess there's like twofold in this. Like, if it's just going to be like, I get the fact that like they're trying to, I think, incentivize having a broad roster, and for people that potentially have upgraded some like off, meta teams, you could argue that, the few that we've seen, Sith and what was the last bounty hunters, they're not necessarily meta. So I can get that, because there are guys out there that like just straight up, they don't like playing the whole squad arena 6 months and switch it type thing. But basically what I would pose to them is like, hey, split that award that like you get for doing that, do like 50% of that and give it to just completing it. Right. I think the last tier is like, I think it's like 175 crystals. So if they just did like, or maybe it's 150. So it's like, if you just got 75 crystals for completing it, and then like, half the gear 12 salvage or whatever. I think like that would be like, I would be like, okay, I'm leaving something on the table for those guys that decided to press their rosters in that way. But I'm also okay because like I got a decent reward. But yeah, as far as like some of those other feat stuff, like, I don't know, that part's hard, because it's like, again, like you're saying, like, can't really like, you don't want to like, break it to the point where it's like, okay, now there's just nothing that you have to kind of, I guess, work for, if you will. But at the same time, you do want to have some sort, you don't want galactic challenges to just be a time sink, which right now with Mark 1 gear, for most people, that is a time sink. Like, it's just like, okay, there's like no point for me to try to underman this,
Yeah.
It's fair. What about you, Solo?
Well, I said it last week. I think these galactic challenges should be a way for the younger rosters to catch up. So I would love to see 10, like instead of 4 character shards, I would love to see 10 character shards that you're getting, because it'll save you farming on, if you look at like tiers 1 through 4, the character shards that you get are all old characters that they're not useless, but there's no reason to farm them right now. So it'll help give you just like a little bit of a jump on these farms that just aren't exciting. Then I guess it depends on how many times it runs a week. Like, if it's running 3 times a week and they gave us 5 stun gun salvage each time, I wouldn't complain with 15 salvage every week. I know it's not like a full stun gun or anything, but you get that combined with the shard shop currency, and it probably actually would add up to a full stun gun if you buy a stun gun in the shard shop. Ideally, though, I like having control over what I get, so there's still a piece of me hoping that these sim tickets that were, included in the exhibition rewards are really just a placeholder for currency that we're going to get, and it's not really going to be about the rewards you get, specifically the gear, but it's going to be more about the currency that's going to have something, hopefully, that we need in a store somewhere. So almost like, the Galactic War store doesn't have anything useful after you get shards, but, like the GET stores or something like that, where you can buy 5 stun guns, or you can buy 3 Chirotechs, or whatever it is. That's what I was hoping for initially. There's still a piece of me holding out hope for this galactic challenge currency that's going to let me buy what I want, rather than have CG determine what I'm going to get.
And that's fair. I really like the shards idea, trying to catch up on shards. I'll say that so my new player account tried to do Galactic Legends or challenges, and I've succeeded a couple times, and it is crazy just how irrelevant the gear is that we've gotten so far, even for my new account. Like the stuff that you can earn, I was like, I already have like 80 something of that, which is a ton for the like 1 month old account that I have. And the shards were nice, but I only got like 2 shards. So
Yeah.
like it didn't help my new player account. It was, and then I that was the first week, and then the second week I haven't been able to finish it with my Phoenix squad. So so there's that, but I think it's funny. It's telling just how the community has no perception of exactly what would be balanced and not. I don't mean any insults to the people watching right now and commenting.
But I'm gonna insult you.
There are some wild things here, like wildly differing opinions. Some people are saying we should get a full stun gun every week. Some people are saying we should just get a few shards. Like, a lot of the talk is revolving around stun guns, and it is just really interesting to me. I'm not saying that either of those opinions are wrong. I just think that like one of those is probably wrong, frankly. I don't know which one, but it's just very telling that people don't understand the level of balance that CG is going for. Like on some level, people are always going to disagree and have these misperceptions about it, misconceptions. And, I can understand CG wanting to start with like nothing, give no rewards that are substantial, and then dole it out, because I know that people were so angry with the Sith raid. Like, you remember how they were saying like they at first top 10 always got a full piece in the Sith raid, and CG had said like, hey, we didn't actually intend for that to happen, or we're going to stop that happening, whatever, for balance reasons. And people got really angry and frustrated about it, and I can understand it. But you take away rewards, people get mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You give rewards after giving nothing else, you become like this awesome benefactor who listens to the community.
I completely agree. It's better to ramp up than it is to nerf. And I will say, in CG's defense, when it comes to like characters and stuff, they said long ago, our goal is to never have to nerf a character. Now, granted, there's been 4 or 5 instances over the 4 or 5 years where they have had to nerf a couple characters, but they understand nerfing is bad. Bad PR, basically. They don't understand all the bad PR that they do, but they know nerfing is bad PR. So I'd much rather they start off with horrible and then say, okay, now that we're serious, here's something better, as opposed to, let's say they gave us like 10 chirotechs every time you finish this, and then they said after testing, listen, this is going to break the in-game economy. We're gonna take 5 of these away, and I mean the riots that would happen would be astounding.
I wouldn't say astounding, because that would imply surprise.
That's fair. Touche.
But no, you're right. Like it's a really interesting thing. The nerf thing is exactly on point. They refuse to nerf things, or if they do, they give us refunds immediately. Like,
yeah,
they're like, hey guys, what was the thing they just recently nerfed?
Scarif.
Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. Yeah. They're like, hey, this interaction breaks the game, and no one really cared because no one used him hardly,
except for good old Maurice, who cried about it for like 3 weeks straight.
Okay, nobody but good old Maurice actually used him. They had like 0.001% of the player base actually doing things with him, other than with the ship. And like they gave us the refund on it. I guess it is a little frustrating. Like if you geared your character with that one thing, like they didn't give us gear they didn't give us gear refunds on it, but they did give the ability refund, and they make it a very strong point that they don't nerf things. Like, they make things stronger, and therefore kind of like land on nerfs sometimes, just by the fact of buffing someone else makes another character by comparison worse. But yeah, they haven't done that. They haven't nerfed that much. So
no, I can only think of, I don't count the Scarif Rebel Pathfinder one because that's so minor. But really, all I can think of is Sith Assassin, and that wasn't even a nerf to Sith Assassin as much as it was a buff to Malik. But if you remember back in the day, they nerfed Xeris as well. Because remember, her ability lasted past her death, which made those teams even more annoying. And so they nerfed it to once she dies, the ability goes away. And I don't consider that a nerf. I consider that a godsend.
Yeah.
So,
God. Yeah, an intervention.
Yeah. All right.
There was the Finn one too. I think that.
Oh yes. Yeah.
That was the last true nerf. I think
that was. Yeah.
Oh, Zeta. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though, I mean, obviously his lead isn't the same as it once was. But his lead is still pretty darn good. So.
Yeah. Especially with relics.
Yeah.
Like when it happened, I think we were still in gear 12. But yeah, now with relics, I think like that 60% defense and offense and all that good stuff. Like, yeah, it ended up being like pretty good again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just good in a different way. And I spent that Zeta on something else. I don't remember what it was, but I eventually did respend it.
I feel like, yeah, I think I gave that Zeta to Daka. It went to a Night Sister. I think it went to Daka. I could be wrong there. It was definitely to a Night Sister, though. And then I ended up reapplying it just like a year and a half later.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have it written down. Never mind. I track all my Zetas, but I just have it scratched off of my tracker that I got it refunded. If you care, the first time I Zetaed Finn, he was my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He was my 9th Zeta ever. And I applied it on October 16th of 2017.
Gee, right in time for light side territory battles to 6 out of 6 every combat mission.
Yeah. Yep, that was the whole reason. One of my few PvE Zetas.
Yeah.
And then I reapplied it on April 7th of 2020. So.
Oh, not too long ago.
Yeah, and I don't know that I've actually gotten much use out of the Zeta itself, but yeah. Anyways, so I don't know if you guys have more thoughts on galactic challenges and all of that. If not, we could actually talk about the excitement of Grand Arena, because that's what this podcast is theoretically about.
In theory it is. And Jareth is very excited because 3v3 is dead.
Oh man, I'm so sick of 3v3. I used to champion it. I used to love it, and Galactic Legends have just killed the magic. I'm just sick of it. Just totally done.
Yeah.
Like if they had announced another 3v3, if they had announced that it was going to be another 3v3 season, I'm guessing I would participate on some level, but I don't know how. Like, I was already kind of like looking back at the things that I was doing. I had checked out like almost at the start of the season. Like, I didn't change my squads on defense or offense hardly at all. Like, I went through the motions, but like I didn't even realize how despondent I was until I rewatched a couple of my videos, and I was like, man, I just was so bored with it. So
yeah, no, I could see it in you.
Ando, how was your 3v3 season? For those of our listeners who don't know, how you did. Like what you
I
did fairly well this season, I think.
Yeah, I did. I went 11-1, and so yeah, that's pretty good, especially because that first, like, it's hilarious too, because it always seems that this always happens, like nothing ever really matters until it does, and it's like basically as soon as GA Center started tracking, I went that so the first, I guess, 5v5 season, I went 1-2 every single week. I've never had that happen before, ever. Like, I'm not saying that I go 3-0 every week. And I don't even think I've ever before that had ever gone 1-2 in general. I definitely have never gone 0-3. But maybe once or twice, like I've gone 1-2. But for it to happen week after week after week, I was like, what is happening, dude? This is terrible. And every single week I had to listen to Neil or Flair like rip on me. I'm like, great, even better, man. And then but yeah, so it was a good confidence boost again to like go into threes and do well. But I am definitely ready for fives. Because yeah, the Galactic Legends, dude. I said this in the chat, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but like I would legitimately give up if I could give up my GLs and all my progress that was done on them. If that meant like everyone else did, like if GLs just didn't exist, I would do it. Like I would take that for if in March we got JKL and Evader rework, and we just kind of like right about now we'd be getting like a new meta type thing. Like I would totally take that over GLs, man, because it 3v3 with two of them was just terrible. Like normally we have the one meta, right? Like that no one can get through, but now there's like, because they released them both at the same time, there's like literally two of them. Yeah. And so it's like, holy crap, like I can't even get past one wall, like because they've just like GL'd me out.
Yeah,
dude, that's
yeah.
I swear, if I could just push the delete button on Galactic Legends. I know it was a really interesting thing, actually. We went on Operation Metaverse a while ago, me and Solo, and I was I found myself like tongue-tied because they were saying like, I don't know, they said this like, I don't know how it was for you guys or how it is for you guys, but we love Galactic Legends. There's so many different options. It's so diverse now and so crazy. And I was like, I totally disagree, but I'm not going to be that guy who gets invited here and then just argues. Like I, not that they're wrong or anything, but I mean, so they're in a high-end PvP guild, and
Yeah.
So they're constantly like planning and theory crafting around Galactic Legends and how to beat the different comps and stuff. And
yeah,
I mean, there is certain levels of interest for me in that, but like I've gotten very little joy out of Galactic Legends, if I'm being totally honest. Like I just
yeah.
Yes, in 5v5 I had one of my best seasons ever because I was able to find ways to beat them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I mean, so it's enjoyable to win, but
yeah,
it's not necessarily super fun when that's my first and almost final consideration. I'm like, oh, okay, now Galactic Legends are done. Now it's going to be fun to clear the rest of the board.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about, T-Money and Gom. They're in the high-end guilds, and you're right in that basically every one of their GAs is, okay, here's 4 walls of Galactic Legends, and now we're going to do the same thing, and we're just going to counter. That's exactly why I don't want to be in a high-end guild right now, because I would love the challenge of being in a high-end territory war. I don't want half of my territory war to be countering a Galactic Legend with an off-meta team. I just, it doesn't sound fun. I don't enjoy attacking Galactic Legends. Then you make it with an off-meta team that has, depending on how the other side modded their team, makes you potentially lose with your off-meta plan. Like, it just sounds miserable to me. If it was 6 months ago, and you're trying to figure out how to beat gas on defense with like CLS or something. Yeah, cool. That's great. But now there are so many different combinations of Galactic Legends to throw you off. Or you look at it in like Grand Arena where the stupid zombie cheese team, like it's not even a good team. It's not a well theorycraft team. It's just literally zombie doesn't lose taunt.
Yeah.
And you can't kill her. Like that's not theory crafting. That's what's the most annoying thing that I can possibly throw on the board. That way I don't have to play because I know they can't beat this team. It's like this is just miserable. It's not actually fun. And
Right.
4.5 minute arena battles, because I made the wrong choice back in January before they announced the kit. It's like I don't want to do this. Like you're making me not want to play the game with these 4.5 minute arena battles where now people are adding Hoda, and I added Hoda too because it's the obvious option to the Ray team. But there's a 50-50 shot that you're going to time out if you don't get a critical hit where you need it. Like, how would a CG think that's enjoyable? Ever.
Well, and it's a really interesting thing, actually, because we've talked about before, like, we really like CG's kits that they make in general. Like, I feel like they have a lot of nuance in all of the new kits that they've released since the Galactic Legends. And before that, even, like, at least Cara Dune has some interesting things that hint at something exciting that might come eventually. You know, even if she's not good right now, Galactic Legends are very obviously good. And I also wonder if I think of my some of my negativity about GLs, it comes from 3v3, just because it's like they're so good. They're like as good as two really strong meta characters just wrapped into one. And then you just throw them into Grand Arena 3v3, and it's just like, how do you even beat it? There's very little room for theorycraft, and in a mode that I feel like is an amazing opportunity for theorycraft in general. Like there's just so much interaction between the different kits and so much planning that's required. Galactic Legends is just like, all right, I have to use my Golden Galactic Legend, and I'm not going to clear. Okay.
Yeah. I see. This is why I've hated 3v3 forever, because you say it's fantastic for theory crafting. I completely disagree. And here's why. I won't just say that. I will give a reason why. You're taking away two members of the team, which means instead of it being a team that you're placing on the board, you're placing basically the superstars. It's like 3v3 is the 1992 Olympics with the Dream Team in basketball. You're just putting a bunch of superstars together. They have absolutely zero chemistry, but their kits are just so good that they're going to be good. In 5v5, you can, have these two other support characters that can actually change how a team operates. In 3v3, it's just, here's a bunch of good players, go. And so, yes, you can theory craft 3 good players that go together, or 3 good characters that go together, but there's not interesting interactions. It's just, oh, look, here's 3 good characters, go. As opposed to, in 5v5, like, you look at some of the Galactic Legend counters. I know I said that I hate Galactic Legends, and I do, but you look at some of the counters, and the way the kits intricately line up when all 5 members... Yeah. Whatever. I can say quirl. I can't say intricately. But the way that they line up just with all 5 members so that it creates like one perfect team, that's good theory crafting. Not just, all right, guys, I'm going to stick 2 tanks and Xeris. And if they don't have JTR to beat this, I win. But anyway, that's...
So what are your thoughts, Ando? Solo hates the idea of 3v3 as a theory crafting mode. What are your thoughts? Know that your answer is going to make an enemy of one of us.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess really like the way that I thought about it was like I guess we could really split this pre GLs and post GLs, because pre GLs, like there's some really cool interactions that you can still get in threes that like you just don't get to use in fives. And like some of those interactions, like for the longest time I used to use CLS and shirt and bays. Now, is it as good as CLS, Han, and Chewie? No, but also Wedge, Han, and Chewie are another good team that like can actually still do decent. They can beat quite a few teams, and so you know that's where I would say like kind of like the theory crafting comes in. And yes, like the fact is that team only works because you've probably taken away, by virtue of them having a 3v3 team, like, or just team of three, you've probably taken away one of their attack, like one of their supporter attackers, and maybe another tank or something like that. So that team, you can kind of lessen all that offensive output and then create kind of like two B plus teams. So that's cool to me, because again, we're talking about this game and we're talking about characters that I used to love playing. Man, I mean, I can't, like, when I remember whenever I first got Wedge and Biggs to gear 12, I was like, dude, these guys deal some damage, man. Like, these guys are awesome. And now it's like, I don't think I've ever once been like, oh wow, this team down here, it's not that good. I'll probably just use my Wedge and Biggs to just clean them up or something like that. Like, it just doesn't happen anymore. And so it's cool in that sense, because you can kind of spread it out and there's more battles for you. So it's not like you have to, like in fives, right? It's like, what is it? It's 8 battles, I think, 8 squads, right? Or something like that for the top guys.
7.
7, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
7
7.
with fleet, 8 if there's no fleet.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah, so it's,
gosh, I hope we get that eventually, but go ahead.
I think pretty soon, honestly, like, call me crazy, but like I feel like pretty soon we're probably going to start seeing, because of the amount of squads that are actually viable now. Like, there's going to be a time pretty soon where I feel like we're going to get Ray. You're going to see the squad arena. You're going to see the Ray with gas, and because it's like, because all right now, like, yeah, I guess Vader can still probably counter it just because of all the Jedis, but like there's going to be a time where like people are just going to just be able to be like, well, I don't need all these teams. I just need 8 teams that I know can beat the other teams. And it's starting to slowly come that way. Like, even now, like 6 months ago, the thought of using Jedi Knight Revan in a 5v5 situation without GMY would have been like, whoa, like, don't do that, that you're gonna lose. But now with JKL, it's like that is the obvious counter to GLs,
Right?
And so it's like now I have to go back and revert to a Bas Lashan GMY team, which is great still, but I foresee one of these days, like, yeah, we're gonna get to one of these GLs teams is just gonna be stacked, and you're gonna be like, oh crap, like my Jedi Knight Luke can't, my Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Knight Luke can't take that team,
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you talk about that. I really think that we need a new division, and very quickly, because we're at the point where 7 teams. I was talking to Zareth about this the other day. I'm going to put Darth Revan, Gas, CLS, and Supreme Leader Kylo on defense. So, with 3 other teams, that'll kind of rotate so people can't predict my entire defense. And I was looking at how much offense I still have, even with those 4 teams on defense. Like, my offense is overkill at this point. Even with probably the 4 best offensive teams on defense, just because we have so many characters now. If you're at a GP of 6.5 or higher, like, the 7 teams are not the same as when you're 4.5 million having to play 7 teams. Because I remember at 4.5 million, I was like, Xerath is yelling at me, "You have too many G11s on defense." It's like, but I have to. Like, this is what I have to do. So I think we need the new division sooner rather than later.
I think
Yeah.
so too, man. Yeah. Miyabaka saying, "Dang, so you're gonna make your opponent cry," and
That's the goal.
and yeah, like I'm gonna be doing something very similar. I'll have both Galactic Legends and Darth Revan and Padme and General Grievous and
Yeah.
like a really gross Newt squad, and then I don't know what the last one's gonna be, you know, and it's all gonna fluctuate. It won't be that exact thing every time, but like you can do that, and I have my counters developed. I can do that and still have a really strong offense as long as because I know off meta counters.
Yeah.
So
and actually, Mio Baka was talking about the CLS counter in chat as well, and how high relics, you know, for people that are free to play or goldfish spenders, trying to get the niche relics on somebody like Stormtrooper Han it doesn't make sense to them, and it's very hard to do. And on my alt, I mean, I completely agree. I want a Stormtrooper Han. I can't get there, but I will say Chupio, if you can get it right, I can't get the guard right, but just adding Chupio to the team instead of Stormtrooper Han, I'm getting it down to just gas right now. And that's just because I over-reliced my CLS, and so there's no way that he can get, or that Chupio can not get guard. But if you can get guard onto CLS still, that team isn't going to need the R7 Stormtrooper Han. You just kind of need Chupio to assist every other time, and it's basically an assist machine. So I think that's actually better for the lower spenders as well. Because I think if he was G12, so maybe in a month when he's farmable, it'll be it's an easy gas counter. Like, even with CLS not having guard, getting to just gas at the end was easy. The problem is gas stands up when all the clones are dead and, you know, wipes out CLS in half of a blink of an eye. But yeah, so we're seeing rosters develop where these teams that were fantastic back in the past are going to be a lot more counterable, even by the free-to-play people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think like the more like as soon as I started like actually playing the Vader counter to Rey, like I just thought about it and I was like, man, and like the first time that I did it on stream and I got 60 banners, it was just like, man, my worst nightmare would be a Rey owner that you just spent 6 months or whatever gearing up like all the characters that you didn't probably want to gear up and relic up, knowing that now a guy that like has had a relatively old team plus Wat Tambor and just go in and 60 banner it. Like, it's, if I'm a Rey owner, like, and I see the relic Vader, I'm just like, dude, I've got to find some way to at least make him get to like, 55 banners or something. Like, I've got to, and that's where modding and stuff can kind of come in and help. But like, yeah, like anything, like I was talking to Xerath about it on his stream. I was like, dude, I don't know, man. I'm just like, I'm still thinking of that because I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
And I've got both of them. And I'm like I'm thinking like, we throw maybe like, Rex in there with some of the clones. He gets a ton of TM from that and, gets the tenacity up. Maybe just gets it to where you get a turn or two and you can at least whirlwind a few of those guys out and then maybe allow them to do their thing from there. But yeah, like I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's gotta be something.
That Vader counter is exactly why I probably will not be putting Rey on defense.
Yeah.
Or at least if they have the Vader counter set up, because there's nothing worse than you look at the Grand Arena history and you're like, that was a 60 banner win. That sucks. That was my worst defensive team. Is my quote unquote most expensive, whether it's via time or resources team, and it's like, oh, are you kidding me? I'd rather put Darth Revan on defense because no matter what, Malik is gonna drain force somebody and just destroy at least some banners on a team, and keep Ray for offense because I don't want a 60 banner a 60 banner win on my front line on defense.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like MF Bison saying, like, I'm okay if that, like, if it was like gas or something. If like my Ray gets gas and they get 60 banners, like, okay, so be it. Like then, either I put a gas counter in the front wall and try to bait their gas out, or I put or I put a gas counter behind that to try to stop them there. But it's like, I'm not saying that Vader's not good, but it's just like that is not a team that I want you to get 60 banners. That is not a good trade-off. Again, like with a lot of the SLKR, it's like, okay, it's Darth Revan. That's the counter that and it's usually GBA and Malik and Fallen Bass. Like those are
cost meta teams,
right?
Like multiple teams.
Exactly. That's a good price. Like if they're going to do that to me, then that's a good price because now I know those pieces are out and they're not going to be. But like, I mean, you're talking about the I'd say honestly the best piece that we were bringing out with that one is Wat Tambor. Like I know they don't have a Wat Tambor now,
right?
And so yeah,
yeah. I think we're going to see or at least the Ray owners are going to see a lot less of the Grievous Wat teams. Just because Wat's going to be saved for offense.
Yeah.
Which I'm not opposed to that.
The question is, how can you channel it? If you can make it so that, yes, they use the cheap counter on your Ray. The thing is, they still use really vital characters. Like if they use Vader to counter your Ray, they still needed to use Thrawn and they needed to use Wat. Like, how can you make it so that they can't cheaply counter the other teams that you place? Because if it costs something, so or if you can make it so that you're like, okay, I'm placing Padme up front first, and now they're like, okay, so normally if I'm worried about Rey, I would keep my Vader plus Traya plus Wat and all these things. But I really, really want to use like Traya and the Sith Triumvirate and Thrawn to kill this Padme team. So I don't have that. So they have to make a tough decision of like, okay, how do I kill this Padme team without just like screwing my hopes of killing Rey if she's in the back,
Yeah, and I did that last 3v3 of I was taking Rey on offense just because I didn't have the Kylo ultimate yet, so Kylo was always on defense because I think without the ultimate, he's better on defense. Well, he's better on defense, period. But I was putting Padme in the bottom front. That way they, basically for exactly what you're saying, like, are they going to use Thrawn on that Padme team thinking that Rey might be in the back?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think why everyone loves Grand Arena, because it's just like a mind game. You're trying to and I've been in the same way. Like I said this on stream multiple times. It's just like I actually love it when the GLs are in the front, because it's like, okay, I know now for fact like what you've got and what I've got to get through, and it's exactly how I thought it was. But I hate it whenever there's like, it's like, hey, they might have an SLKR in the back and there's this Grievous team, and I normally use, my Jedi Knight Revan against it or whatever. But if they've got that SLKR in the back and I don't have Jedi Knight Revan, then I'm screwed, so I have to try to do something to do this. And and then that's usually when mistakes happen. Like, it's like, okay, I guess I'll bring in Shock T and the clones, and then that can go like one of two ways. It can go either like you get 50 banners and you win, or you get like the lose and now you're just like, oh God, what has happened?
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm honestly giving serious thought to putting both Galactic Legends in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and just putting a couple like FU squads in the front to make people like think they can't possibly have both Galactic Legends in the back.
Yeah.
Like they can't they can have both. So I'll keep my one squad that can counter both, and then I'll use the other stuff. Like I'm thinking of saving that for like week 2 or 3 though.
Yeah, well that's the other part of this. Week 1 is in theory should be the easiest week. Sometimes you get matched up with difficult opponents and you're just like, but it's week 1, what's happening here? But I probably won't break out my best defenses in week 1. Just because I don't want it on the GAC history. And in one of the matches, I will have Kylo on offense. On one of the matches, I will have Rey on offense. And then, if I can get away with it, depending on who my opponents are, I'll have both of them on defense. That way, whoever's planning for me the following week is going to say, literally every option he had, he took last week. I have no clue what's going to happen. But, kind of to Ando's point, the biggest favor that they can do to you or do for you is put their 3 toughest teams in that front bottom section. It's like, oh well, these are the toughest teams. That's easy. I like to put all the B teams in that front bottom section, like KRU with Hux. I put on that front bottom section that they have to get through it, and I gotta defend probably 2 out of 3 times last 5v5. It was amazing how many defends I got with it. And I talked to one of my opponents afterwards, and he's like, listen, it's a tough team when you don't know what you have to save for the back. And I was like, yes. Yes, it is. And generally in the back, I had Supreme Leader Kylo, so he had to save stuff. But it's those types of teams where it's like, you have to seriously think about how you're going to counter it, but it's not the top tier A meta. Those are the teams I love on the bottom, like that KRU Hux, or if you're planning on using gas on a different team, like Shakti and Clones are fantastic in that front bottom, just because it's an easy team to beat, but not when you have to save X, Y, and Z just in case something's in the back. Meanwhile, if I put KRU Hux in the top zone or in the back zone, people would easily have a counter for it because they'd have a full picture of the board. But,
Yeah.
there's a lot more thought into how you place your teams than just, I'm going to put 7 teams out there.
Oh, at 100%.
Yeah, I think you just have to be real careful doing that. I think you're right, Solo, that like placing those kind of squads is the best, like trying to create that level of uncertainty in your opponents. I think you just have to be cautious, because if you do give some kind of solution to them that like if you give them a squad that they can easily counter that doesn't actually cost them a meta team, like that's...
Oh yeah, I'm not putting like Newt in that front zone where if they have Geos on offense, they're just going to roll over it. It's usually, I'm going to keep like General Grievous, and then that first order team, and then one other strong like B+ team. And then I like to, like, I got so much crap for putting Rey in the top zone in 3v3 against good old Maurice, and everyone's like, why would you ever put a Galactic Legend up there? And my answer was basically simple. It's, listen, he knows there's going to be a Galactic Legend on defense, so why not show it to him, show him what he has to counter? And then I had Darth Revan on the bottom with, I think it was like Bastila and Shakti. Those were the 3 teams. So it's like, why wouldn't I put Rey where he can see it? Because he knows Rey is going to be on defense no matter what. Just because I told him I was going to place a strong defense. So sometimes I like to, give you the tough team up top. That way you already know what team you can't use down bottom. And it's not like I put weak teams. I had, full R3 plus teams on the bottom as well. So it's never place an easy team to counter on the bottom. It's always going to be something, something that makes you think.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So, Ando, you have a Relic 7 Plo.
Yes.
And what are you gonna do with Plo at this 5v5? What plans, what diabolical schemes have you cooked up for Plo?
Dude, honestly, he works. I mean, so it really is going to depend. Like I'm going to look at their roster and see if he's got an SLKR. If he has no SLKR, then Jedi Knight Luke is going to be the lead. Yeah. Jedi Knight Luke is going to be the lead. And it's just that 50% TM gain is just awesome. Like,
Yep.
When you have guys like my Hoda, he's like 320. I could if I want to, I could throw Shakti in there. I think she's like 320 or something or another. But when you have guys like that are going that much faster than Luke's base speed, and then they get 50% TM from that, like it's just beautiful. Like you're running circles around these guys, and you're getting that. As soon as you get that, what I think it's like a cooldown of 8 or whatever it is, the heroes arise. You're just like constantly spamming that as well. It's so much fun, and it's so controlling. And even if they do get to take a turn, Jedi Knight Luke has already stunned them, so it's like, yeah, they're just not moving for forever. It seems like I love it.
Yeah,
but he's a really great control piece. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the problem is like the question really comes down to, okay, well, if they do have an SLKR, then what am I doing with them? And I think there you have probably the better choice. I have tried him with Basila, and he is like mine currently the way I'm modded, which is not like optimal at all, but he's got about 140k of both protection and health. And so, and it's I think it's about even breakdown. So it's 70k. So underneath the Basila, he's gaining that 200% protection up from his 70k health, but he's taunting right away. So just like, like it can, he's not super fragile, but he is also, he's not like he's not like he's just going to be taking hits for forever. So, but he's got some pretty good stuff in his kit. I definitely would not recommend anyone R7ing him. That's just totally due for my community. But the dispel on basic and that big TM gain, I've constantly wondered. There might be something where I even try it with a Shakti lead with Rex. There's like, because that TM gain is also for clones. So
yeah.
You have Rex, who's gonna give that big TM boost right off the bat, and then you can get some cooldowns going with those guys, and then Plo would get a TM boost to those guys as well. So it's like you could potentially be looking at taking quite a few moves off the front. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet, but it's going to depend on kind of what the roster of my opponent looks like. But I do have some plans.
Yeah.
Hold on, man. I'm excited to follow along and see what uses Plo has.
I will say I have always liked Plo for a Jedi Knight. This was back in the day with the Jedi Knight Revan team, because I've had Plo G12 for those Jedi Knight Revan matchups for a long time now. So he is absolutely a useful character, but R7 is a little aggressive. Just a little aggressive for me.
Aggressive is a great word for it.
Yeah, he is. It is a little bit of a move.
I agree though. I have him at gear 12 exactly for that. Like it just so happened that he's also good with Negotiator, and I was like, oh, look at that, a character I don't actually have to gear up and farm. Like he wasn't as great on defense because the AI sucks, which is fine. But yeah, with Jedi Revan, that mirror, he saved that mirror match. It saved me so much time and
Yeah.
frustration, and so many other people who climbed against me. I'm sure. Also, he saved them, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I do you guys remember like when CG? I don't know why this popped in my head, but you remember when CG, like, I think it might have been, it was either a Q&A or they actually just created a separate post. They're like, hey, we've looked at like the numbers and we think that you guys aren't using Plo Koon's ship enough. Like, that's just such a random thing for them to say, but they totally like came out and said it. And like now you wouldn't see negotiator fleet with that one unless they just straight up did not have Plo Koon or something.
Thought
But
about, I want to put Plo like for my fleet that I climb with every day. I use a negotiator, and then I usually forget to put in, or sorry, I use malevolence, and I usually forget to put negotiator back in. And so the fleet that I use that I keep in there though, it has Plo in it, just because he just messes with people when he comes in as a reinforcement. Like, yeah, it's interesting. I've had a couple people in my fleet shards say like, "Oh yeah, Plo came in and I couldn't beat your malevolence squad." I was like, "Sweet, I'll keep him in there. Thank you."
yeah, absolutely.
So, Solo, what do you have a squad that you're eyeballing right now for Grand Arena for 5v5?
I'm really interested to see how Mon Mothma works out. I'm actually kind of glad that my CLS testing with 2PO and 3PO didn't work on gas, because I really want to run Mon Mothma with 2PO, 3PO, and 2 others. I haven't settled on the final 2 because I don't have Cara Dune ready, and she is the obvious answer in that team. So I have Hoth Scout, I have Baze, I have I have Cassian. I don't know what the team is going to be. I'm really excited to see how this team does. I used the Mon Mothma team against the First Order team in Territory Wars. It wasn't a good First Order team, but they were, fully relicked for Supreme Leader Kylo. And it was a really fun team. So we'll see. And Doty, I do have I don't have Pow ready for the big time yet. He's gear 12, but the problem with that Mon Mothma team is you need some sort of speed in there. And my Pow is not modded for speed right now. He was modded for the Chex Mix team, and then I just never changed the mods when I stopped running Chex Mix. So he's at least gear 12, but he's not ready for this Grand Arena.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I never even got him to gear 12. He was just gear 9. Especially, I enjoyed the shock value people had in it. They were like, he's only gear 9? And you still get good scores on Chex Mix? I was like, oh, really all he is offense up on a stick. That's all he
That's
is.
Basically,
It
yeah.
really was.
So as long as you can survive their initial barrage, like you could totally just have, I mean, if you wanted to RNG it, if you had enough time, you could totally just go with, like gear, whatever the low level gear you can on him, as long as you could get that offense up. That was literally the only considerations. But people often, they were like, really, you did that? And I was like, I kind of enjoy that reaction, so I'm gonna just keep him at gear 9. So
Yeah.
That being said, he's definitely on my list of considerations with Mothra. What I'm going to do so I got Hoth Rebel Scout up to gear 12 the other day, because once you spend 1 stun gun on him, it's like an automatic, it's like you're gear 8 and then you're magically suddenly gear 12 on him.
He is really easy gear.
It's like he costs 1 stun gun and that's it. It was really cool. So he's gear 12 now. And really, I mean, that's the only reason I got him that far. What my plans are with Mothra is to wait until someone comes up with a really good comp and they have a video, and then I'm totally just going to use that comp and gear them that way.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Mothra? Ando, I saw the other day in Territory Wars you had a stream where you were attacking, and your Gear 12 Treya team almost got taken out by a Relic Mothra team.
Yeah. I mean, the relics were definitely highly in their favor. Because I think I don't even remember. Oh, yeah, I used it was Chase. I used Chased underneath a Treya, Scion, and Nihilus lead, and I thought to myself, okay, the reason why I'm bringing in Chase is one, just so he taunts right away, and two, it's never bad to have tenacity up and kind of give everyone the healing over time or whatever. But as soon as we started, it was like they melted base, and they melted freaking turret right after each other. But the damage was already kind of done. They were already starting to chip away at their own health and defense or protection and whatnot. And eventually, yeah, it came down to, it looked like it was going to be really, really solid. But I think they killed Scion before I could get a Held by Hatred, and that I think really crushed the team. But yeah, by the time they got over to Nihilus, he probably had like 800k because of all the crits they've been in health. So they were like barely doing any damage. But yeah, that was Mon Mothma, but she was only 5 stars, like gear 11, I want to say. But the rest of them, it was like Cara Dune at Relic, I want to say 3 or 5. Chupio at, I think, Relic 7. Hoth, one of the Hoth guys, I don't know which one it was actually, because I didn't actually look. And then I forget who the last guy was. But it was, I mean, overall, like I said, it would have been a terrible banner count, but like, yeah, I mean, it seems like that would be, if I have to face that in Grand Arena, I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. Because I have been like, over this week, I've been like diligently, like, and I mean like very diligently, adding gear to my Jawas. But they're currently at like gear, I think some of them are gear 10, but I think most of them are like gear 9 and maybe gear 8. So they're definitely not ready for it. So it's going to be interesting, man. She definitely brings a huge component into it. Because even I've noticed, like, if they have gear 12, like they're still good. Like you cannot like underestimate them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You're absolutely right. So people are saying disturbing things in chat about all of this. But like Doty Beast here is talking about he's shown me videos, in fact, of his relic wedge just obliterating certain things, and it's very tempting.
Sure.
Except you have to get him all the way from purple to blue, and that's potentially the most disturbing, because he is a pain in the neck to gear. And like, he has worthless pieces for his gear 12 or for his gear 11 finishers, gear 12 finish, whatever. Like, he requires like 4 of them. It's gross. It's stupid. And then you have to add 6 more pieces to him, and his ship isn't good. Like, it's disturbing. But Doty Beast is here raining on my parade, saying you need wedge. You need wedge to go with POW, because AoE defense down is so good, and his special doesn't trigger damage penalty with wedge. Like, it's disturbing to think that maybe that might be necessary. And then we have Enigmatic Potatoes saying that the best plan for Mothra is to have more than 5 characters ready so that you can swap them around. And I don't want to gear more than 5 worthless characters. I just don't. That sounds awful. So disturbing things from chat, and I regret having read them.
Yeah, I think, at least now, because I have Chupio at gear 11, I think adding Chupio and 3PO to that team is is mandatory for me. especially considering I don't have all the garbage geared up. But I'm really interested to see how this goes and what I can actually take out. I remember when they first did the Vader rework, I was scared to attack teams with Vader because it was so new. And I was like, man, I really don't want to mess this up. And I ended up not using Vader half the time because I was like, what if he's not that good? I don't know how good of a team he can take out. And that's kind of how I feel with Mon Mothra now.
Yeah.
I know she's good. I just don't. I don't know what the top end of her good is.
Yep. I 100% agree. Like, I think a lot of times, like, these teams come out and it's just like, oh my gosh, we don't know. Like it's the new toy, but like no one knows. It's like kind of the same thing with the bugs. Like for the longest time, they're like, dude, bugs are crazy. And then someone's like, just use Trey Elite. And then it's like, oh, cool. Like, but it just, it took
solved.
Yeah.
it took a while for everyone to kind of do that, you know, like, and in the interim, you know, like, I'm not saying that gearing Jaw was the wrong answer, but I know a lot of people did that to counter it. But it's like, those guys are pretty heavy gear. Like now that I'm like going through them, like they kind of require some serious pieces in them.
Yeah.
And if I could not do that, then like I will gladly put more gear on to, you know, the triumvirate. If it means that like I'm not gearing the Jawas. So
yeah.
And that's what I'm waiting for. Like there's gonna be like teams where it's like, oh wow, that's easy. And same thing with like the conversation that we are having earlier. I forget who it was with, but it's like same thing with like Luke Lead right now. There's so few people out there right now that have him, and there's just I don't know if we know either A, how good it is, or B, truly like how, you know, how not good it is. And I said the same thing when SLKR came out, and everyone's like, dude, SLKR sucks. And I mean, he ended up like, yeah, it's definitely not good when Gas can basically solo him. But yeah, like I was just saying, hey, I think we might be rushing to conclusions here that we just don't know. Like this was pre-ultimate, you know, it's like you never know. And I think the buff that we got was, it seemed like it was very reactive, like, because now you look at it and it's just like the buff seemed to make him just so much like better than Ray. Like it was like one of those things where I think everyone was like, hey, we just want people that are equal, you know? And then it was just like, oh no, just kidding. Like SLKR is just way better now. So yeah. I think just adding the advantage would have probably been good. I mean, when you can have a Hux that gets 330 plus speed, and then also the first time that he gains advantage, he's gaining 20% turn meter off that. It's like, okay, wait, why is he getting the 30 speed then too? I mean, it's like insane. He's going so fast.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And to comment on the chat talking about Jawas, if my opponent has like gear 10 or 11 Jawas, I'm going to place Mon Mothma on defense because I know they're going to use Jawas, and I can already guarantee you one of my defense teams held for 47 banners.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically a loss at that
That's
point.
Yeah. Totally good point.
So I don't see why I wouldn't put them down there and bait that Jawa team. I'll even make it easier for them to win with the Jawas because I'm not going to score less than like 53 with any of my offensive teams. So I'm already starting 6 points up on them if they use their Jawas. So go right ahead. Feel free, guys. Here's Mon Mothma. I'll gladly keep a different team on offense.
Yeah, if they want to use Jawas on me, I will 100% take that.
Yeah. Every time. I said that about Geos too. Like, go ahead, gear them. It's a 57-point win. Not every one of my defense teams needs a hold. They just need to steal banners. That's all I care about.
Yep.
Right. Well, and we said that, I said that a long time ago. Like I
Yeah.
remember Indigo was talking crap to me at one point in a good-natured way, but he was like, "Well, why do you put Geos on defense? Yeah, I'll just use Jawas." And I was like, because you'll use Jawas against me. Like that's
Yeah.
why I would put
That's
you
the exact
answered your
reason. Yes.
question.
First off, let's just talk about this part right here. The fact that you say Jawas.
And I don't need any of that nonsense out of you.
Oh.
No, it's totally true, and that's why I've always been reluctant to gear them. I guess my whole thing is like, yeah, maybe if I go into that trio fight and like with my triumvirate and I lose, then it's just like, okay, I don't want to waste another, solid team. So here's my gear 8 Jawas. Let's try to blow them up so that way I don't have to use like an actual good team. But yeah, no, I totally agree, man. Like that's such a good point. It's just like, yeah, if you're willing to take one of your 8 battles, or I guess 7 battles, really with squads, and you're willing to throw in your suboptimal lineup to get a suboptimal score, then I'm totally willing to play into that. Like I will play that every single time. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, I will say the one argument I have against that is if you can take I do this with troopers all the time because I still use troopers a lot because there are still a lot of squads that troopers can counter, though they're more and more rare. If I can take troopers and remove one of your squads with troopers, then it's like having just a free squad. And troopers are a bad example or bad parallel because troopers are incredibly efficient. You get 60 usually, or something close to that if they have a counter or something. But the fact of the matter is, like, sometimes you just need to get through a squad, and it doesn't matter how many banners it costs. It's like,
Yep.
I can't budge these geos. Like, I just won't full clear if I don't do that. Or I know that he's got something gross in the back and I don't have a squad to spare for this squad. And yes, it's inefficient, but if I can get the win, that's potentially more important. And I didn't use any of my really good squads. I could potentially put one extra squad on defense if I know for a fact I can use Jawas on offense and get a win.
Yeah. I'll counter that though, because I mean, like we were just talking about this, like especially in 5s, it's just like you need 8 teams. Like, I mean, well, 7 teams, plus your fleet, but you need 7 teams. Like if you use Jawas, like you're probably you're like, I do it every stream too. Like I look and I'm like, I didn't even use my Padme team. Like I'll be like, how the heck did I do that? Like there was probably a team that I could have gotten way better banner score on that I just decided like, oh, I'm just like, I'm going to play it safe or I want to try to keep that in case they have something in the back that I need that for or whatever the case is. Like, so I don't know, like I get what you're saying, but like I would still like say that like it's less than prime. But yes, totally agree with the point that, yeah, sometimes getting the full clear means that you get the 2000 or 1600, whatever they decide the points are this time, which is way more important than just one-shotting the teams. If you set your teams up right, your defense right, you can afford that 47 banner win, then by all means. But yeah, I think we're starting to get to that point where it's like, if you can just provide 8 teams that are like always going to win, like then, or 7 teams and 1 ship, fleet, then, and then there's teams out there that are just like always going to be an ace in the whole, it's just, they're just that way, and so that's where I would say like, yeah, using Jawas, the C grade team where you could just potentially use an, B plus or an A and score better would be like probably the mistake, but for sure.
Yeah. That's why.
Well, and to be honest, it all stops. Like Forsu just made a good point of like his Jawas are all stopped at the gear level where they all require stun guns and droid collars, and that's exactly it. Like I don't think anyone's going to turn down a full Gear 12 Jawa squad that someone just gifts to them. Like if someone said, hey, do you want your Jawas to stay at Gear 9 or do you want them all Gear 12 for free? Like, I think most people are going to say, I'll take them all Gear 12 for free. Thank you.
Yeah.
I need this mysterious benefactor that's just going to give me a G12 team.
And so the point I'm making is, yes, it's handy to have Jawas available.
Yeah.
It is just handy to have them, but are you willing to pay the gear? And for me, I'm not. Like, I'm arguing in favor of them on a theoretical level, but am I willing to actually put gear into them where I still need to gear I still need to gear all of Mothma's squad, and I need to put gear on Chupio and all these other characters who are actually super relevant, and they're going to get me efficient banners or good defensive teams. Like, of course I'm going to do those first, but if you have a huge amount of gear available and you've already geared all those good characters, then why not get your Jawas up to Gear 12? Frankly, like, that's a good tool to have in the back of your pocket. Like, I remember I couldn't clear 2 seasons ago in 5v5. I could not clear a General Grievous squad, and I probably told this story a million times, but for those of you who haven't heard it, I needed to clear a Jawa or a General Grievous squad. I had like basically nothing, like, and it was a pretty good squad, and so I was like, okay, well, if I can clear, then I win. So I used Jawas there against them, and they killed B1, because B1 assists all the time, so he gets a ton of grenades on him. And then I put Stormtrooper Han with them so that Stormtrooper Han would survive and give B1 a time to explode. And that's exactly what happened. B1 exploded. Then I could just use a bunch of horse teams to slowly chip away and eventually kill General Grievous. And that was at Gear 9. Then I tried it a few fights later, and they barely failed. But if they'd been a little higher gear, I think I could have achieved it. So my point is, great tool. I don't know if they're worth Gear 10 or higher if you still have stuff to gear. So
Agreed. Yeah, it's definitely a very niche team.
Absolutely. Well, and then there's obviously the speculation of, will they be needed for Mandalorian content? And frankly, I would not be too surprised, because they're one of the few squads that nobody ever gears ever. So
yeah, I've started to wonder if the Mandalorian content, quite frankly, is just like the smuggler content that everyone expected last fall.
Yeah.
Everyone knew that there was going to be something for the smugglers. And granted, they did put an event in for smugglers, but everyone knew that they were going to be a panic farm. And then apparently nobody told CG that, because they never became a panic farm.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Easily that could be it. Sorry, what were you going to say, Endo?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's impossible for us to say. I mean, like, I created a whole YouTube video because I was just like, hey, if you look at the time, like, you know, they released out these marquees, and it's been a long time since the marquees really haven't indicated at something else coming. But I mean, people talk about Moff Gideon, and it's just like, can you realistically create unless they have insider, like, unless they got to see, like, you know, season 2, you know, sneak peek type stuff like they used to do, you know, with like Solo, and I know, you know, they even had like the Sith Trooper and stuff like that for episode 9. But it says, like, unless they've gotten like inside scoops about what he, you know, like maybe what he turns into, like, is there anything that we can really gather from, like, build a kit off of in the last thing? I would think that maybe, I mean, it's not like he even uses the dark saber to, like, attack someone.
I know his abilities, like extricate self from Rex.
Yeah, it's like, I mean,
intimidate Jawas.
I don't even think he shoots at all. Like, I know he's just kind of sitting there commanding over Death Troopers, which is cool, but, like, can you build a kit off of that?
And is it a legendary? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's not just building a kit off of it. Is it a legendary? Which, I mean, the Dark Saber might be a legendary, but I don't know if
Yeah.
the Moth is.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I think we're primed though. Frankly, I think we're gonna get some like let's see. Mandalorian content is coming out in what,
This
October,
October,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But they've done it before where like they released Sith Trooper
Yeah.
before. I don't know if they released the kit before. I think they did actually before
they did.
Episode 9 came out.
Yeah.
One way or another, we knew about him. Like they could easily create a Moff Gideon uh, character based off of the what information they have. They do get that insider information. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. They don't have from season 1. It's like, what does he do? He like grins menacingly.
Yeah.
Like he has other people do his dirty work, and a lot of people are speculating that he's going to come along and it'll be a new age for Imperial troopers, which would be really cool. I don't know how it would work, but I would be down with that, I think. Especially if we get a flame trooper of some sort.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of like this on the chat, like I see J Rod. I've like talked about this like multiple times on my streams. And I think this is like Mando would be such an amazing opportunity for them to treat this like as a totally different character than they've ever done before. And what I mean by that is like maybe it's just like a almost like a kind of like a smuggler's event, and basically what you do is like you take your 1 month, like for a couple days of the month, you get a chance at going in and basically fighting. I always forget the name of it, but the thing that he had to fight, and that's like when he gets his like, or the lady asks him like, hey, you want the signet, right?
Oh
the
yeah.
Mudhorn.
Yeah, the Mudhorn. There we go. You fight that, right? And then that adds like a piece, like his Beskar armor on his chest, right? So it's still the same character, but we now add a Beskar chest. And that doesn't sound that cool in of itself, but it's like eventually like you get so many of these like payments of the Beskar armor where you're like, okay, now you've done this event or you've done this bounty so many times that like you now get the singing I think it's or whistling birds or whatever it's called, and that's an actual ability now like that you get with this contract. So not only do you have the annihilate, but you also have this AoE that like whistling birds, and it does certain things or whatever. Or
Dude,
I've
like, wanted that for a long time, honestly.
Yeah.
Like when I was first playing, kept looking at the Luke, the Farm Boy Luke thumbnail, or the character sheet, because I was sure that as I added gear, he was going to adapt and evolve into like Jedi Luke eventually.
Yeah.
I was sure that's how it was going to be, and I was like, man, it's taking a while to actually get there, and then I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like one event would be just going to that. The first event would be him just going to that. I don't even know, the village, and him just picking up the child. Like that's now his summon. Like he summons the child, and the child gives you health and protection, or maybe a boost in offense or something. Whatever it is. And so now like every battle he's got this summon that comes with him and helps with recovery and all that good stuff. And it's just like you're piece by piece like making this guy into a legendary character eventually. And I think that'd be just cool. Like I know they've never done that before. Like we're probably going to get a full Beskar armor guy, and then like season 3 is going to come out and he's going to have a jetpack and 17 missiles, and we'll get that guy too. But it'd be really cool if they just kind of like built on the guy that we have, because he's really good. But yeah, it'd just be really cool if we could just like build on that guy, because then it'd be like, oh man, this is sick. Like I can actually just go into certain events with this guy and complete it, and he gets better.
And I would legit love that. That's a really fun idea.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever do it, but I'd love that idea.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just put it for the fun stuff, but yeah, I know that it's like definitely never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've now I'm sad.
Well, let's make you happy because we have. We should probably get to some podcast questions because we always end up running out of time for them. So why don't we move
Oh, you
on?
think that's gonna make me happy, but let's. I do like them, I guess.
Yeah.
That cheers me up in a moderate way. So.
Okay. So the first one, and this is based off of a Reddit post, which we can talk about as well. Apparently,
For our first time listeners,
yeah.
these are just questions that people ask on our Discord. If you want
Yeah.
to join our Discord, we have a link to it, right? On the
Yeah, it's on the Twitch
Twitter.
page, and then we'll have it in the description of the podcast as well once the podcast is published.
Yes. Okay. So continue.
All right.
Solo.
So apparently, Cubs, Arnold, and Ian are all down like 30% viewership over the past 2 months, possibly with the notion that popularity and interest in the game is waning. Are you seeing a similar change in viewership, and what are your thoughts on these trends? Jareth, what do you think? And are you seeing a decline in viewership?
I'm not seeing a decline at all. I would say I see the inevitable decline of interest in 3v3, which happens. Like my initial videos, I'll get a ton of hits relative to my normal level of hits. And then as the season continues and people's interest wanes and they don't feel like they need my guidance exactly, like they don't feel like they have to watch my videos to stay current, like they start feeling more confident, then people inevitably just stop watching them as much. So that decline has happened, but overall, my viewership has been pretty good. Like it keeps climbing. I keep getting more and more views, and my numbers are better than ever. So maybe that's just because I'm getting more exposure. It's hard to say because at this point, like Arnold is basically like a household name. Like most people know who he is at this point, and they all watch him. And so, like, maybe that's more of an indicator of waning interest in the game than my stuff, because maybe my stuff is still reaching new groups of people. I mean, there's still a ton of people. Clearly, I have way fewer subs than he does. Maybe more people are watching his stuff. Or like, for sure, more people are watching his stuff. Maybe more people are just discovering my stuff, and that is outweighing the decline in viewership. But overall, all I've seen for myself, like I've just seen increases across the board. So
Yeah.
whatever that's worth. What about you, Ando?
Yeah, I think more or less the same. I think people don't really have an interest in 3v3. Like you said, like the first few, it'll be like, okay, let's look at what squads work again and what don't. And then once everyone kind of gets in mid-season form, so to speak, like it's just like, hey, it's more or less the same. You know, it's like it's the same thing. Like every week I'm gonna bring in, some, Jedi Knight Revan against GG or something like that, or whatever the case is. And every once in a while you'll find a cool little thing and you'll be like, oh, cool, I brought in Shock T this time, but it's not enough to usually keep people super interested. But yeah, I think those guys, like, I don't know how to put this, but it's like those guys, I think they have a lot of people that are also like, and like those channels specifically, like those bigger ones, like maybe not so much Ian, but like those other channels, like have kind of introduced other games that they've like either been covering or that they're interested in, or like, hey, this is what's around the corner in this game, and so it's like, I feel like they're almost like kind of advertising for that game too. So it's like, yeah, whenever that happens and you have that much influence over someone and they leave this game because, yeah, all the things that you say are true, like MSF is getting more content, MSF is getting more frequent updates and stuff like that. And if that's what someone's really looking for and they're down about the fact that they're not they're probably boosting up mobile gamers views as much as they're decreasing their own. And again, I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not like pointing finger and being like, it's all your fault or whatever. It's just like, hey, like there are certain actions and, I could probably point to also, Galactic Challenges probably not being everyone kind of hyping it up and then it not being, everyone's, what living up to the hype, I guess, if you will. And but yeah, like, again, when you make a video that says like, hey, Galactic Challenges sucks and like you've been hyping it up, for a while, you have to kind of expect like, okay, like, this guy's hyping this thing up and now he says it sucks. Like, why am I, I'm not going to play the game anymore. I'm not going to watch YouTube videos on this anymore. I'm going to go spend my time doing whatever.
Dude, and so that's a wonderful point that I wanted to make as well, is like, maybe these guys, like, they have these viewers who are all just like, now a lot of them are like, these guys are charismatic enough that their viewers are like, yeah, I believe exactly what they believe. Like, I want to believe this stuff. And these guys have, like, frankly been pretty negative about the game. And like, Solo and I have talked about it before, of like, you play a game that you like depend on for your living, basically, like that is what you do professionally, and you're telling people that this game sucks and you're very negative about it. Like, I'm not saying that their view is wrong or that I necessarily disagree with them. I mean, I do disagree on a lot of different things, but I'm not trying to like throw them under the bus here. I'm like, what do you expect if you say this game sucks and there's no reason to play it and I'm depressed all the time? Every single video I'm showing shows how negative I feel the game, the negative direction the game is going. Like, they're like, well, I didn't think my viewers would actually like listen to me. But you're hoping that they do. I don't know. It just makes me scratch my head a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I said it on the podcast before, probably about 2 months ago, when all the drama happened. I've never seen people work so hard to destroy the business that they're trying to build. Because all they do is talk bad about it. I mean, I'll use Urs as an example because he's no longer doing the game. He was literally on a show with Cubs where Cubs was getting a lot of flack for being uber negative. And so Cubs has this, sets up his normal Monday stream with Urzatron where they do like a news segment and they talk about stuff. And he's like, I really want to listen to my community. Urz, do you think we're being too negative? And Urzatron's like, no, we need to be more negative. This game is crap. And I was like, so you're just going to ignore everything the community has said and just go even further negative? And here's the thing. You look at Reddit, because I like, we love to make fun of Reddit on this program. And half of the negativity on Reddit is from people that no longer play the game. And they still watched like the Cubs and the Arnolds and the Urzes because they are entertaining. If nothing else, those guys know how to make an entertaining video.
Absolutely.
But there's only so much time that somebody that doesn't care about the basis of the game is going to stick with you no matter how entertaining you are. So if you are constantly being negative, and I do think negativity takes away from the entertainment value. Like, when they're constantly slamming on stuff, I think you can't be happy. So you might find it engaging, but it's not going to be something that makes you feel good. And you're just not going to go back to it if you don't care about the content anymore. So they drove people away. And I do think, like, I know we are growing on Twitch, so we're technically growing, but that's not necessarily the same as what these guys are up against. But I also think that Reddit post that was made was incredibly selective, where they picked. Well, it's a known CG troll that when evidence was thrown at him like 18 times in the post, he's like, no, you can't look at profits to determine how successful a game is. You have to look at the viewership of YouTube. And everyone's like, that doesn't make sense. But he selects, like, the start of it is the week that Jedi Knight Luke comes out, where obviously everybody's going to be watching videos because it's Jedi Knight Luke.
Yeah.
And then over the next 2 months, and it does, the views like didn't even drop below the baseline, so it's not like they dropped overall. It's like, oh, they dropped back to the baseline. He's like, it dropped 30%, guys. Like, no, it didn't. It increased 30%, and then it came back to normal. So, you know, I think the game is still making a ton of money. And when you're looking at how long a game is going to last, and when you're looking at how successful a game is, you're going to look at how much money they're making, not the YouTube views for 3 individuals. Like, not even looking at the entire views for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It's for 3 specific individuals, which, I mean, just doesn't make sense. And also, not that I've thought about this topic a lot, but people like Cubs, he's on Twitch now. Same thing, when he was on the game, they moved to Twitch. People aren't going to watch Twitch and then the re-upload to YouTube. It's like, my videos viewership on YouTube went down. Not by a lot, but it went down when we started streaming on Twitch. But that's because those people are still watching me. They were just watching me in a different area. It's not that we lost viewership. It's just that one site lost viewership. So I think, I mean, the whole thing is much ado about nothing. It was all kind of spearheaded by a troll, and then, you know, snowballed.
I think too, and I've constantly, like, I've said this on stream as well. It's like, you know, the Game Changers program really died in, I want to say, like November-ish of 2018. It's like right when that big screenshot leak happened, right? And then they kind of got like a watered down version of it, and then that like kind of limped on for like another 8 or so months or whatever it was. And it's like, some of this has to, I think also too, like, it's the same thing with Twitch, right? Like, you could say that like I used to dominate Twitch with like, you know, 30 viewers or whatever at a time. Yeah. But it's like, now I look on Twitch and it's like especially when Grand Arena's going, there's like 8 or 9 or 10 streams, and they've all got 20 or, you know, 20 or higher or whatever. It's like, okay, the overall, like, yeah, maybe even I have dropped down or whatever, but it's like overall, like, Twitch is doing really, really good. Yeah. And it's like, I think from when the Game Changers died, you know, or was kind of put to rest, I think like a lot more people started saying like, hey, I play the game every day. I'm just going to record something on my phone. And, you know, now those guys that have been doing that for 2 years, you know, they've got a big following too. And it's like, I'm not saying that it's totally due to like why, you know, Cubs and those guys might be seeing reduced numbers, but it's like, there's just more people now covering the game than I think there was back in the day. And we all have access to the same information now too.
Yeah.
And so, some people even more, if you would argue that like, yeah, you know, like guys like Cubs, you know, before his no spending thing, you know, like he could only show footage of stuff that like he had on his test account. Whereas like a guy that just decides, like Mandalore, who just decides to wail out on everything, and he can show you everything the day of, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, guys, it's, if you want to talk about like business terms, like it's becoming a more competitive market, you know? So I think it's a good thing too. Like, but yeah, like, I think those are just like certain instances, and like, I like all those guys that we've mentioned, and I definitely don't have anything against them. I just think that it was like, I think it's definitely I forget which argument it is, but it's like when you're trying to paint the whole picture with just like very specific case.
Yeah.
I would say it's
straw
more
man.
that. Yeah, straw. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, because I don't want to make it sound like I was talking about bad about them, because I actually like Cubs. Like,
Oh yeah.
when Cubs is not on his own stuff, and he can just be himself rather than the persona for his channel, because all of us will go into a certain persona no matter what. It's just kind of the nature of the camera. But like Cubs was on Mort's stream a couple times, and just talking like a normal person, and he was fantastic to listen to. It was like the old Cubs because he didn't have to worry about how is my viewership right now, and how is this, and how is this, because it is stressful. I mean, he's doing this as a full-time job. It's stressful for him, but when you take him out of the stressful situation, he's actually a good guy and interesting to talk to, and very personable. So I don't want to make it sound like we're talking bad about them. Just maybe some of the decisions they made, because I don't agree with going so negative all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. So that was actually a very long-winded response. Why don't we move on?
All right, that's there we go. All right, so next one. Actually, I'm gonna skip around here, and we'll start with Ando on this one. What is currently your lowest geared or starred faction, and what Galactic Legend speculation would require you to relic them? So, for example, the Asker's Galactic Republic Jedi include Kit Fisto at 19 out of 25 to unlock, Ayla at 16 out of 50 to unlock, and 3-star Gear 1 ETH Koth. But so he can totally see a Galactic Legend GK coming, which would get him to, work on this faction. So, what's your lowest geared or starred faction, and is there a Galactic Legend that would get you to work on them?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, probably faction wise, it'd probably be the Tuscans. I mean, I have everything at 7 stars. Well, I guess minus like Cam.
Yeah.
But I know I have not touched any of the Tuscans. And what GL? Honestly, if they tie, okay, this actually works out perfectly. If they tied a fallen Anakin to the Tuscans, I would completely gear them up. Like I think that's the next big GL that I want, like in the game. Like to me, like I want the fallen Anakin or Darth Vader pre-suit, whatever you want to call them, and like that's you just to slay the Tuscans with him and the women and the children too, and it's just yeah,
It's messed up, man.
Yeah, but like it would. I mean, that would be the one that like, because I mean, Galactic Republic, I think I have pretty well geared up. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone else like it's just really those like small weird factions that I haven't done.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Jareth, what about you?
I don't really know. We just talked about Jawas a lot. I really think I wouldn't mind an excuse to gear Jawas. Speech impediment or no, opting for it. But I would like that. I would like Solo mocks me for Phoenix. I just really like Phoenix. Like I like that show. Rebels was a great show, and I wouldn't mind putting relics on my Phoenix, even though Solo would mock me, he'd actually be doing it alongside me. So actually that would be the faction I'd want to happen, just so he had to.
Yeah.
Just to force him.
Of course.
I've been taking a lot of delight in him like nervously shuffling his feet about Biston, whether or not he's going to gear Biston, because he said forever that he's not going to gear Biston ever. And so I hope, I just keep hoping that's going to happen. I'm selecting a lot of things. I think the other one would be Old Republic. I'd be down with Old Republic in terms of gearing them for something greater than they've already been used for. That probably won't happen, but
yeah,
I don't know. Otherwise, I feel like the question also had an element of like with the context of like you're what things are you totally unprepared for entirely, and for my main roster, I honestly like Tuscans were great. That's a great answer, Ando.
Yeah.
I love the idea of that. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, Jawas, the Mothra squad is, all of those characters are pretty poorly geared. My roster has a lot of gear on it, though. Frankly, like,
Yeah.
ooh, here, how about this one, guys? This one is my final answer. Mandalorian faction with Gar Saxon and Imperial Commando, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are pretty low for me too.
But like,
Yeah.
and then with Sabine and Mandalorian and whatever other characters come in the Mandalorian, from more content for Mandalorian, people
Don't
are going to
forget
be
about
upset.
Canderous.
What's that?
Don't forget about Canderous.
Canderous, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I've always liked Canderous, anyways. I would
Yep.
love to gear him. But then people are going to cry forever about not about Boba and Jango not being included. But
Yeah.
I'm okay with them just crying forever and never actually having any relief from that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would love that. Maybe have some anyways, I could go on, but that I would love Mandalorian. What about you, Solo? I've gone on way too long about this.
I'm a lot like you, where it's really the bigger factions, like the Jedi, the Empire, the Rebels. The top end or the top half are all fantastically geared, but the bottom half are all like gear 5 and below. So if they ever required the bottom half of like Empire, which has, Gar or Imperial Super Commando or whatever his name is, I'd be screwed. Or like the Galactic Republic Jedi, I barely have any of them geared up. But oh god,
Especially unclaimed ones. It's like, yeah, I have
Right.
Grandmaster Yoda and General Skywalker, sure,
Yeah.
but
I don't
I'm
have
gonna use
Heath.
them and
You don't have Jedi Knight Guardian geared up, guys?
Well, I've heard Ando is getting an R7 Ayla, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not happening. I'm not doing that, dude. Not until I see her working with Cam, and then I would probably be like, all right, it's time to do this.
honestly, like that, Solo and I have discussed the possibility of people applying pressure to us doing like another gearing challenge, like we did
Yeah.
with Stormtrooper Han to Relic 7. I honestly think that maybe Ayla is going to be one of, if we ever do that, Ayla is going to have to be one of the.
Ayla might be a good one.
I think she's gonna be good with Cam. It's just
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be having Cam for 16 years at the rate that I'm going. So
Yeah. I think she's actually really good with Jedi Knight Luke. Zareth and I were talking about the other day getting Ezra to G13 and giving a couple of relic levels, just because if you need Jedi Knight Luke with Jedi Knight Revan to counter Supreme Leader Kylo, well then that team is kind of set.
Mhm.
But if there's no Supreme Leader Kylo on defense, you can easily break that team up into two. You just need enough Jedi to do it. And right now, I don't have enough Jedi. But if you have an Ayla and an Ezra, you can easily split those two teams up into two and have two really strong teams. So
yeah,
I don't think Ayla is bad, and Ezra is Phoenix, but I think he's he's separated from the bunch.
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next question. What are your top 3 most tricky non-meta characters for defense? So basically, who do you like to place or who don't you like to face that aren't, the big ones, like the Darth Revans, the Gas, or the Galactic Legends? Like, what tricky teams are out there for you?
I'll let Ando answer that first.
Oh, that's tough. One that I really don't like facing is Django. Django,
Yeah.
like at Relics, he's scary. Like there's some that are like modded that you're just like, okay, like he's barely hitting me, and then there's some that he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna rocket you and you're dead. And
Yep.
like you have no like say in it at all. It's just like, holy crap, man. Especially like when Poggle's in there, because he's got that unique that gives them 25% offense on top of him already getting his contract, which gives him like 50% offense or something. So
Yep.
it's like he just melts people if done right. Top three. Shoot, I'm trying to think of some other ones. I mean, Newt is always just like Newt is just one of those things where it's just scary. Like if you miss a payment or if it's ability blocked and it just starts to really like it's just like, oh my god, am I gonna take another like it's not like usually like even they have like the big damage dealer that's gonna make you regret it instantly. It's just like, holy crap, like 4 minutes has gone by and I haven't taken a turn. Like what is happening right now? And it's just like super stressful for like the however many turns they're taking. So that'd be one of them as well. And man, non-meta. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I mean, I haven't faced him too often, but Chupio honestly does like scare me. Like just the fact that like he's gonna mass blind, he can hit up to 5 times, or I guess technically six, but it's just like, holy crap, man, this is scary. Like he's assisting all the time. Like it's just like kind of the same thing with like B1. Like they're not doing so much damage where it's just like, oh wow, like I'm in trouble now, but it's just like that constant chipping away that you're like, okay, wait a second, like am I about to lose this guy because they just keep targeting him. So
Yep. Yeah. Jareth, what do you think?
Um, yeah, so I remember once I faced a Dengar lead in 5v5, and it was kind of a sneaky one. It also had uh Malik in it, a few other things. Like it kind of split up a few squads, and it was a while ago. Like back when it made less sense to split Malik off, frankly. Dengar ever since like so I had a two hit it and I still beat the guy, but it was an extremely uncomfortable team to face because his lead does just kind of mess with you. Like just it reduces your critical damage, and I don't think people realize just how much we all rely on critical damage in our fights. And so when
yeah.
they take 50% away, like it's hugely problematic for a lot of different characters. And like that, that's just a universal thing that he does.
Yeah.
It can go on any squad as long as he's the lead. And he's always kind of worried me. Like I haven't really faced a ton of Dengar squads, but I feel like some of the conversations I've had recently with like some of the Operation Metaverse people and other people in high end guilds who are doing GAC stuff, like they talk about Dengar lead, and it makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair.
um, you know, he's definitely not meta. I also I find myself nervous about like Mandalorian teams that I haven't planned against because frankly, like so the other day it was a few months ago, but I remember so I quit my high end PvP guild Alpha Squad to join Hawk Ski Patrol, which is a really great guild, but they're a little less intense on territory wars. And then, like a few wars later, of course, my new guild had to fight my old guild, and the old guild is just like, this is what you get, Zareth. And I'm like less stress in territory wars. Yeah, that is what I get. You know? But like people were being nasty enough that I recorded all my fights, and I decided not to send all of them. Frankly, I decided to. But the one I did send was one of them who was actually being pretty nasty about things. They had placed a bounty hunter squad with Django lead and like Mandalorian and Grief, and they were all Relic 7, and it was like, wow, this squad is great. Until I realized that my Stark was faster than even his like Bosk, who was pretty fast with Django lead, and they're all Relic 7, and they didn't get a single turn. I wiped the entire squad out entirely. So I sent them that, of course, because that was funny. Because my highest relic, I have Relic 4, Snowtrooper, Relic 1, Stark, and the rest are Gear 12. So it's like they had 49 relics on that squad, and I had 5.
Dang,
And one of those was
nice.
unnecessary because Stark only needs 1, or only needs Relic 0, really. But that being said, like so that worked. That being said, a Mandalorian squad that's well thought out and well timed, it's not meta yet, and it won't be like arena meta, but that squad makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of having to face that. What
Fair.
about you, Solo?
I'm gonna go with a squad here. My biggest fear is a Newt Dooku Nest team with Django, where Dooku and Newt are both like at or over 300 speed, and if it's a fast Nest, your team is just stun locked the entire time because it's like Dooku goes, hides everybody, Nest stuns somebody, Newt is applying extortion, and then Dooku is just stunning everybody. And I've only lost once to a Newt team with my Geos, and it was such an embarrassing loss when I lost it because I don't think I got a turn. Like my entire team was stun locked for basically until they're dead. And it takes a long time for a Newt team to work through a relict Geo team. But there they were, and there I went, basically. So that is the only team that scares me, even though I've only lost once to it.
That story makes me happy in my heart.
I'm glad my failure makes you feel good, Zareth.
Anything that takes Geonosians off your pedestal of worship is just nice.
Except for they're never going to come off that pedestal.
But I think that maybe that story makes them a little diminished. That's all. So it chips away at the foundation. So
are you still countering Karth with Phoenix, Zareth?
If I saw Karth teams now, I would Solo.
But anyway, now that rudely interrupted, that would be, that's really the off meta team that I'm most worried about. All right, last one. We finally caught up on podcast questions. We're like 8 weeks behind for a while here.
So guys, we need more.
Yes. So now give us more so that we can not get to them all. So I just recently set up enough loadouts so that all three teams I use for my arena climb, which is Gas, the Vader counter to Supreme Leader Kylo, and the Vader Rey counter, have unique mods, and I no longer have to swap mods depending on who I'm fighting. Currently, I keep them all in place until GAC lock-in, which has separate mod loadouts. Would it make more sense to leave those arena mods on for GAC so that you can mitigate the risk of fighting GLs, or should you swap to make the teams basically a more generic setup? So, Zareth, what do you think?
I mean, it's kind of hard. It was kind of hard to follow that question. No offense to the person asking it. I think what it's saying though is basically like, should they have those things applied for Grand Arena, or should they like switch to a more generic thing? And my answer is the same thing that we talk about like all the time on this podcast, and that's have a plan. You need to be able to kill Galactic Legends. You have to if that's something you're going to face. Like maybe your arena climb allows you to climb, and then your roster is still low enough GP and matchup GP wise that you don't have to actually face Galactic Legends, in which case, congratulations. But if you take all those mods and just make them generic and make it so that none of those squads are actually relevant in your GAC, then you're doing it wrong. Like you need to have, either your plan needs to be you use your own Galactic Legends to counter, which is generally very inefficient banners wise, or you need to have off meta counters available. And so to me, like it sounds like these loadouts make it like they're these loadouts are using like your best of mods. So like you have to use, if you have a mod General Skywalker to counter something, then you can't use those, like you can't have Vader be modded to be able to counter them because they're all being used. The stuff you would use on Vader are already being used by your General Skywalker. So in that case, like you got to pick and choose, but you can't just walk in and be like, well, normally I can counter Galactic Legends, but I'm just going to put generic stuff on or mods on my guys and hope I don't face them. Like, you need to have a plan. So that's it. What about you, Ando? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think you have to always take like, hey, what is the highest threat that I'm going to face? Because like, if they don't, then great. Like, I guarantee you, if your Vader can beat a GL Ray, then you can Emperor Palpatine a Carthley team or whatever the case is. But if they do and you don't have those mod sets up, and then like and they put it in the front, like you're not clearing at least one territory, and potentially opening up the second territory to be cleared as well. So yeah, it might be a sacrifice for some of them. And like, honestly, like, test it out. Like, I run very suboptimal mods. Like, I think I have 1/6E mod on my Vader, and I beat every Ray that I've ever come across with him. Like, I mean, it's not like he has like my absolute best mods. I think the guys that you need to focus on mod wise is like, yeah, make sure like Vader's got some speed on him, so that way like he doesn't lose to a Finn, a resistance hero Finn, and then make Thrawn as fast as you possibly can, which is like honestly pretty much what you should always be doing. And then from there, it's just like add as many Sith as you can, so that way you get more. Add Palpatine. It's 16 right there. Himself is 16. That's 32. That's basically like having a 6E arrow mod. And I would think that you're probably going to outspeed quite a few of them. But yeah, like I'd always say, like, go for your highest threat, plan for that, and then if they don't got it, then it's really easy from there.
Yeah,
Solo?
I'm just going to echo what you two say. Obviously, be able to clear the board. And that includes countering Galactic Legends. The only exception is, like Zareth said, is if your GP is just, you don't have a Galactic Legend yet, and you're not going to be matched up against one, then I would swap mods. If you have the potential to be matched up against a Galactic Legend, you need to be able to beat the Galactic Legend. It sucks, because I've been in that position where it's like, oh, I really want to have, say, Hoda faster, or want to have Thrawn faster, but I can't because it'll mess up this team, and I need this team for, X, Y, or Z. Like, I get it that it sucks, but you have to try and win, and that means taking out the Galactic Legend, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. With that said, we are caught up on podcast questions. So our last segment is just, what have you done this week to prepare for Grand Arena? And Zareth, what have you done this week?
Like nothing, basically. So in terms of like just upgrading my roster, I guess I did my Hoth Rebel Scout to Gear 12. I won't be using him this week though. Pretty soon I'll be at 7 out of 10 ultimate materials for Rey, so that'll be good. I think the biggest thing, I've just been remodding characters. Tonight I still have a few I need to remod. Let's see, like Thrawn, I put a Create Void arrow on him so that I can run him next to Vader, just in case I face someone with a super duper fast Finn. Though really, realistically, if I do face someone like that, I will probably end up having Darth Revan available, unless, of course, they have Malak with Rey, in which case I need to then also have the Thrawn counter with Vader available. So that remod is in progress. What else am I remodding? I'm putting tons of tenacity on Malak tonight, I think, just to discourage people from trying to kill him with Padme and the like. There are a few other remods. I tried to get Vader to... So here's an interesting thing. I tried to get Vader to the stats that everyone says that every good Vader needs. And I think it's just complete BS that people are saying. Like, so people are like, so you need 222 crit damage, and you need or percent damage, and you need like 100 or 270 speed, and you need 100 potency, and you need 75% crit chance. And it is total BS and impossible to do that. Completely utter rubbish, and it's a slanderous, vile lie from the pit. It's so stupid that people say that you need all of that, because it's impossible. Because or at least I have some pretty decent mods, and I can get most of those stats. I can't get all of them, even if I use every single good mod that I have.
All right, so Jareth needs to go mod shopping.
People need to stop lying about their Vaders. That's what people need to stop doing.
All right.
And I do need more. I need more mods. Always need more mods. Yeah. I'm sure some of it's user error, and maybe someone could figure it out with my mods. I could not. I spent over an hour last night that I just didn't even have. I went to bed later than I should have because of it, and I ended up drawing the conclusion that my speed set was good enough. Speed set with 120 potency, I'm happy enough with it. So what about Force? You don't make me feel bad. Stop it. What about you, Ando? What have you been doing? What are you cooking up for Grand Arena?
Like I said,
go ahead.
I did I was doing a little bit of Jawa stuff, but it's just not enough. Like Forsey said, like I'm stuck behind stun guns and all the like. So I just decided, like, yeah, you know what? That's why I was like, I should probably try my Treya just to make sure that she can work there. She did, but and I don't use Treya against bugs anyways, so that's gonna be my main counter. If it doesn't work, then I'll probably cry, and that'll be that. But yeah, like as far as remodding, I remodded my Jedi Knight Luke, and it's amazing, like just by adding just a little bit more speed, how much more reliable that counter is for me now. I climbed all the way up to 1 today using both my Vader and my Jedi Knight Revan, and no problems at all. And like what's crazy about that is, like, obviously my mod set before was all 6E, and I think currently I have 3 on Jedi Knight Luke. So I was like, okay, nice. Like this seems like it's working. Yeah. So I'm waiting to lock in because I want to get at least 2 more of those to 6E, and I think I should be able to do it because I have the big pieces for it. I just need to spend the like guild event or whatever it's called, and guild event credits or whatever, and try to get those 1 pieces for it. So I should be able to do at least 1, hopefully 2. But yeah, and then I remodded quite a few characters actually. I over the course of 3v3, I actually got quite a few like plus 20 to like 23 speed mods. So I was like, okay, perfect. So I've been working on a ton of them. Whether that was like my main one right now was Hermit Yoda, and now that I've got him to about 320, pretty happy with that. So I'm probably going to start to focus on some of the other ones that I want to continue to boost up their speed. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet. I'm just sort of hoarding at this point. Like I am 100% hoarding for the next big thing, whatever that is, and whenever that is. So
fair enough. What about you, Solo?
I got lucky from the territory battle rewards. I for the first time in a long time got exactly what I needed. So I was able to get both Talzin and Newt to G13. Both of them were 12 plus 5 coming into the week. I mean, 12 plus 5 for like the last year, basically. So I got the Chirotech I needed for Talzin. I got the finisher piece I needed for Newt. So I was able to get both of them to G13. Other than that, I was just working on Cassian. I got him to gear 12. And I think I put like one piece on him, and now it's the long grind to put more gear pieces on him. And we talked about Ezra. I wanted to try and get Ezra up if I could, except for apparently he needs the exact same piece that either Newt or Taliesin needed, because I looked at the salvage for Ezra's finisher piece, and it was like 0 out of 50, 0 out of 100, 0 out of 50, and I was like, well, that's not happening anytime soon, and just kind of
At all.
put it down, and I was like, sorry, Ezra, you shall wait.
There.
Yeah. All right. With that said, though, I think that's, we've been blathering on for about 2.5 hours now. I think that's, I think it's time to call it a night. So before we get into our stuff, Ando, why don't you tell the adoring public out there how they can find you?
Oh, all right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on Twitch, obviously. If you probably just click my name, and you'll see my channel. And yeah, if you guys want to, you guys can absolutely stop on by. I'd love to have you guys there. And it's a good time. Tried to do every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, usually around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So usually go for about 2 to 2.5 hours there. And then I'll just drop it in the chat. That's my YouTube channel. Like I said earlier on, the big thing is like we just did this new kind of like just for laughs type thing for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And it's with me and Gridden, who I'm sure many of you know. And if you're this is like the actual podcast version, if you just Google ANDO 90 SWGOH, you'll find me as well. And
yeah. I'll also be linking it in the podcast description. The only
sweet.
people who need to look it up would be people using iTunes, I believe. Everyone else, even Spotify, has it linked now. So
oh, cool, nice.
Perfect. All right. With that said, Zareth, why don't you tell people how they can find us?
Just look in our podcast description, guys. Damn.
He's trying so hard to get out of this.
All right. Fine. Fair is fair. All right. So we have a few different things, guys. Quite a few different things that you guys can access. That we have a counter sheet that shows all the different matches that I've done and some of Solo's matches. I've been giving him a hard time because he didn't record like any of them from 3v3 last time, mostly because he's been very busy, which is fine. But anyways, we have a counter spreadsheet with a ton of different counters in Grand Arena. It shows the teams that we face, the teams that we use to counter them, and then we have a link to the video that you guys can check out so you can see the real thing. It's not just some weird theory crafters pipe dream that has idealized mods against a substandard team. It's actually like like a reliable thing, and you guys can see how we went about it. So that is going to be linked in the podcast description. It's also found on our Discord. Our Discord can be found in the podcast description. It can be found on Twitch if you want to look at the link for that. Otherwise, Solo and I also have YouTube channels. You can look us up on YouTube if you type out either of our usernames. Mine is spelled Zareth, Xaereth, and Solo's is SOLOBASS15, Solobase 15. If you go to any of our videos, you can find links to any of this stuff, including our counter sheet, our Discord server, etc. Again, these are all linked in the video description as well. On Twitch, we like to live stream our Grand Arena fights, and sometimes we do our territory battles as well. You can just find us on Twitch TV / our usernames. Mine is my username is Zareth_prevails, because some a-hole took just Zareth, and then he doesn't stream at all. So how dare he? And Solo's is SoloBase15, as I spelled previously. You can rewind it if you want to rediscover that spelling. And what else? I think that's basically it. We have a ton of things. So that should be it.
All right. There it is.
I think it's time to call it a day, even though I've really enjoyed hanging out with ANDO.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, man. It really has. Loved doing this with you guys, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Everyone go check out his channel. They are fun streams. And you can help guilt him into the next Panic Relic.
And Relic 7 Ayla. I feel like that's going to be the next thing. I already feel like people are at the moment.
Everyone's already been like, you gotta do it now. Like, people on my Discord have literally changed their username to like Relic Ayla and like just crazy things, man. It's just like, oh my gosh, you guys are like, I actually don't even, it's gotten to the point where like I don't even know who's responding to me, because like everyone's name is Ayla. So I'm just like,
that's amazing.
They're like, hey, can you check my roster? I'm like, who are you? Because everyone is the same thing. Yeah.
That's crazy. Really funny. Yeah, you can always, on Discord, you can always click on their username and see their base username, but that's super hassle.
Well, and on mobile, it's super hard, because like when you click on their name, it's like you're just replying to them. And
you just tag them. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for sure.
That's really funny. We'll have to join the momentum on that. That'll be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to see more Relic 7 Aylas. I mean, you gave them. It's kind of your fault. You did a Relic 7 Plo. I mean,
you gave in.
If you give them another one, they are not going to stop till you have a Relic 7 ETH.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, the one that's going to be low key that I already know about is going to be when we Relic 7 Amagundai. That guy is going to be, he's the leader of the future, man, with those counters and the rest of those Galactic Republic countering with Cam. Oh, dude, that's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look forward to that day.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Everyone, thank you. Have a good week. And happy birthday, Evil, but Evil does still suck.
Yeah, happy late birthday to me. Like,
happy late birthday to you, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not streaming on your birthday, it's awkward. All right.
I really wanted to do a birthday stream, but that was the most boring day of the whole month for streaming, so I declined to do it. All right, guys.
All right.
Have a great night, and don't be a dick.
Good night, everyone.